Hey, fun fans, welcome back. Coming up on this edition of FRC Roundup, we're going to be taking a look at if curers and other volunteer roles are necessary or some that might be unutilized. In FRC, is defense FRC's worst component? And a discussion about the continuation of the one championship announcement for the next two seasons. All of this and more coming up on this FRC Roundup off-season edition.
Your destination for first content, updates, and gaming.
Welcome to the fun.
First Updates Now is supported by Stryker Careers. If you are a college student or recent graduate looking for an incredible internship, take a look at Stryker. Stryker provides a housing stipend, great pay, and an opportunity to work with state-of-the-art medical technology equipment. Discover why so many First alumni are coming to Stryker for their internship or career at careers.stryker.com. First Updates Now is supported by Kettering University. Kettering University hosts 3 co-op employment fairs each year for incoming and current students. Participating in the co-op employment process at Kettering is a great way to begin turning your robotics experience into a professional career to earn money towards graduating debt-free. If you are a senior, it's not too late to apply at kettering.edu/apply.
All right, welcome to the show. If you have not caught our show previously, this is a show that normally follows FRC Recap on Monday nights in the heat of competition season, but we're going to be extending FRC Roundup into the off season. This is going to be a monthly show where we take a look at anything hot in FRC, highlight some discussion points about events that may have happened, strategy, or anything that correlates with FRC. If you, the fun community, think that there is a topic that we should discuss on FRC Roundup, please feel free to ping me on the fun Discord, and I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis, and I am currently in the 1st and Michigan region, and was previously with Team 4130. Connor, my wonderful co-host, is back with me tonight now that he is currently not stuck in Houston due to a delayed flight, as he was for our last show. Welcome back, Connor.
Thanks for having me back. Glad to be here now that I'm not stuck in Houston, back home in New Hampshire. But yes, I am Connor McBride. I am a mentor for Team 166 Chop Shop and a game announcer in the New England district. Our guest tonight is Ryan Dognaux from Team 5010 Tiger Dynasty in the Indiana district. Ryan is the face and owner of the hottest modern supplier in FRC, the Thrifty Bot. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks again for coming on. As Connor said, definitely one of my favorite suppliers in the most recent years. Ryan, you want something made? Ryan's the guy to do it. So he's
That's what
we've
I try to do.
I mean,
Give the
I know
people
at
what
least
they
when
want.
I was on 4130, I mean, the Thrifty Bot was the way to go. Does Thrifty Bot have it? Does Thrifty Bot have it? That was the question we asked every time. So thanks for all you do for the FRC community, Ryan. But we're going to jump right into it. Topic 1 is going to be taking a look at the chief on chief or the thread on Chief Delphi. Man, it's been a while. Thread on Chief Delphi of whether the discussion was are keywords necessary, and taking this extension upon this to take a look at the overall volunteer roles that may be underutilized within competition or anything of that sort. I know that I had commented on this thread when it was first posted, and mentioned how my thoughts overall on this, and I'll kind of give my preface, and then we'll go ahead and jump to Connor first, and then Connor can hand it to Ryan. But I personally think that there is maybe a slight, not stigma, but a impression of queuing in general in FRC. And I commented on how the Michigan State Championship did it this year, and I thought that they kind of really nailed it out of the park. They essentially had one queuer for each side inside of the arena, within the stadium, that were just assigning teams to alliance positions. But there was actually not a single queuer or any pit announcement within the pits at MSC. So if you missed a match, it was essentially your fault. But what they did have, what was essentially a screen inside of the pits that said last match played, match that's on the field currently, and the next match ahead. So you could see at each field where each field had the specific matches that were playing and whatnot. So I thought that that was a really good solution, because then we didn't have queuers coming up to at least the students in the heat of the moment. We might be running a little bit late, and didn't have that experience anymore, because I know a couple of those experiences were mentioned in the thread, and having some negative experiences and putting some volunteers in a role that putting some volunteers in a position that you don't necessarily want to be in that sense. So, Connor, overall thoughts on this topic?
So I tried to stay away from this thread, to be honest, mainly because I knew it was going to be a hot topic. I knew we would discuss it. So I want to try and keep my opinions out of there so I can save it for the show. To be honest, yes, cures. I still fully believe cures are necessary. Especially for me, where we're kind of a smaller crew, I should say, on 166 when it comes to the pit. Like we try and keep as minimal as possible. So we have our scouters in the stands. They're doing their thing, and our chairman's presentation team constantly working, and then they go and join our scouting team. So when we're in the pit, we're constantly trying to be working on a robot and over at the practice field. So to be able to have someone working in queuing to be able to come up to us and be like, "Hey, your match is coming up, like you're 2 matches away," that is perfect for us because that almost screwed us over a few times in Houston at the championship because we didn't have queuers coming around to our pit. They were only over by the field. So fortunately, I think it was 114 or 115 who was right next to us in the pits. They had a TV and they had the mat. They had a stream of it going from Newton the entire time. So like that was our saving grace throughout the entire weekend. We had an incident at Pine Tree week 2. Fortunately, the pits and the field were literally right next to each other, but they weren't doing any queuing at all, except like one person in each station, like behind each driver station. And it was only 24 teams. So like we knew we were going to be having a very quick turnarounds. So that was one thing. And we could also hear the audio of the field. But like, yeah, cures are still necessary in my opinion. And we would also be losing a lot of key volunteers. The first one that comes to mind is Coco Ed. So what would he go and do?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Yeah, Coco Ed, man, he's like the most dedicated, one of the most dedicated volunteers ever, right? And yeah, so yeah, I mean, I would agree. Like queuing, super important still, especially from an event management standpoint. Um, there are a lot of things that like experienced really good queuers do to kind of help events flow normally. Like coming up with the robot traffic flow and kind of directing teams. I think it's a lot more than what some teams might think of that these volunteers do, especially like the
Yeah,
lead
for sure.
queuers. I think like a good queuer, they're there to help the team experience be as good as possible too. Like I think we've all probably experienced some queuers that maybe are a little harsh where they run up to your pit and they're like, "Get out here," and you're trying to fix something and the robot's not ready to go yet and everyone's stressed out. And that's no
Right.
fun, right? Like that's not fun at all. So I think we should be doing things that try to prevent that kind of stuff from happening. And whether it's like, I've seen the restaurant buzzer kind of thing suggested, or I think Karthik brought up the Vex text setup, which I didn't even know what this was a thing. I went
Yeah, I
and
didn't
read
either.
about it. It's amazing. Like, why does FMS not have that for FRC?
Right.
You basically put in your phone number and it'll text you when your match is coming up. Um, that's an awesome idea. Like,
I
why
Yeah.
love
can't we
it.
get that?
Right.
So
Uh,
so that kind of stuff I think would go a long way to just like improving the queuer's job in general.
yeah. I Go ahead, Tyler.
One thing I was just going to say, Ryan, maybe to your point is, could that be a feature added to the Blue Alliance, where if it connects to the API, like we have things where it pings us where after match results, but couldn't we get that for previous matches potentially too?
I think it does actually. At least for my phone, when I have a favorite setup, I have it when like the scheduled match time gets close to whatever it is. It does the app, at least on the iPhone, actually does ping me. At least the way I have it set up. But I totally agree. I actually really like the idea of the restaurant buzzer personally. I think that would be a cool initiative, but again, more money and where's it coming from? But one
Yeah.
thing in chat, I 100% agree with Joel that the safety advisor needs a redo. I often find the safety advisor being a position that provides more of a negative experience than a positive, uplifting safety
What is
experience.
it?
Yeah, well, again, like you said, what is it? Now that there is no safety award anymore, that was really the main item that they had focused on. But other than that, what really involvement do they have in the competition, if any?
I do just want to clarify. There is in the first website, there's 2 roles. So I just want to make sure you're clarifying. There's a safety manager, which is a key volunteer role, and then there's a safety attendant. So are you talking about the safety manager, you believe?
Maybe this is the first time hearing of a safety manager. I've always just known it to be the safety advisor, so that very well could be.
Assistant to the
Unless
safety manager.
that's like an overall, like during the event planning, they're looking at like different safety issues. Joel says attendant. Okay. So yeah, safety attendant, I guess, would be the new word for it. But yeah, the other thing that I would be perfectly okay seeing go away is the practice field attendant. I personally think that us at least us teams are good enough to, and maybe this is, me giving teams the benefit of the doubt, but at least when I was with 4130, we were very respectful of other people's time on the practice field and knew when, our time was up, we were there too long and would back away. Maybe some other teams would not be like that, but I personally think that the practice field attendant could also go away and we wouldn't have issues. But maybe I'm 100% wrong on that. Connor's shaking his head no. So
I'm gonna completely disagree with you, Nick. So
that's what we're here for. Good discussion.
Yeah, this is the content we live for. No, so I think about for like when I volunteer at FLL events and we have practice tables set up. You think how cutthroat it is with the FLL students, and mostly that's just the parents and coaches just trying to get their students as much table time as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then that translates over into FRC, and especially in New England, like I've seen it from low tier and high tier teams without calling out actual teams, but like it is cutthroat on like when like getting practice time. My team were respectful about it 80% of the time, but there are times when it's like there are teams that are just going to stay there as long as possible and be like, can we just like stay at your way, please, 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 please.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still necessary, but maybe you could try and do a pilot at like 1 or 2 events here and there.
Yeah, let me preface this with at districts, I don't think we need it. At the championship and at district championships, I think you need it.
Yeah.
Because just the level of competitiveness that you're going to be at that sense, and a lot of the times at the district championship, there wasn't at MSC this year, but I know it at least. When I did go to championships, I didn't get to go this year, but they have the full size practice fields, the actual field set up. So like in that sense, like you obviously definitely need volunteers running that field and just can't leave that open. But I don't know if either of you, I know you were both at Houston, Connor, with your team, if you guys got to experience the practice field situation at Houston and what it had, but okay.
No, we never went over to the practice field. Actually, we knew what our robot wasn't capable of, and it wasn't a whole lot. So, but
I'm still an alliance captain on Newton.
I appreciate that, but I will still be the first one to say that we had a really easy schedule and we shouldn't have been ranked that high.
Hey, you got to execute though. Still got to win the match.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, next topic.
Yeah,
right,
I mean, Indiana's
improve the ranking system.
Chill with.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana's, from what I've heard, Indiana's very chill.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Everyone's just kind of hanging out at the practice field. Someone needs to like come in. They're like, oh, kind of slide in here, and they're like, yeah, come on, bring your robot over. So, like, I don't know. In Indiana, I could see it going away. Usually, whoever's running that's super cool anyway, and everyone's pretty relaxed about it. But I mean, having been in the regional system back like when I lived in St. Louis and stuff, probably necessary there just due to the sheer number of teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just so many teams trying to make their robot work. So
right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Before we go and jump into our next discussion, we're going to go ahead and bring on Tyler to talk about our wonderful friends from Stryker.
Yeah, hey Nick, maybe they'll reduce the practice field attendance in FIM since now you only have 6 weeks to do all your events now, so you never know.
Yeah.
So another topic.
We're going to need to spread those volunteers.
Yeah. Well, how about Stryker, by the way? So Stryker keeping us a lot alive and independent. Really appreciate them. Go check out careers.stryker.com. And here's a little video. Learn a little bit more about their culture. Should you be interested in working for a leading medical manufacturer technology company?
I love working for Stryker. I'm genuinely excited to come to work every day.
The minute you walk through that door, you know you are part of something special.
We support each other and look out for each other.
I love Stryker because we are like a family.
At Stryker, I own my career.
There are so many different places Stryker can take me in the next 5 years.
Noi crediamo che quello che facciamo è molto importante.
Together,
With our
Customers.
We are driven
To make
healthcare better.
great people with a strong mission and values can accomplish great things together.
All right, awesome. Thank you to our friends from Stryker for continuing to sponsor fun. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our next topic, which is going to be led by Connor.
Yeah, so we are going to be talking about probably one of the strangest threads that I've seen in quite some time. It's a thread that was started by an account that is definitely gone now, but the thread is still up. It's called Defense, FRC's Worst Component, and not to be, confused with FRC's Best Component. So this really just talks about defense all in all, and as to why we continue to play defense and why it's so heavily favorited throughout like qualification rounds, throughout like higher tier competitions, and even playoffs and stuff. And the OP was talking about how they were appalled that their team was asked to go and play defense along with their alliance, but in the end, it to me at least, defense, it still makes sense with the way that the structure is laid out. And we can go on and on with a lot of different things. I kind of want to bring up Ryan to lead us off here with this thread here.
All right. So yeah, I read through it. I think there's a lot going on kind of behind the message of that thread. On the surface, they were asking, can we get rid of defense from FRC, or how do we minimalize that? And
Recycle rush.
Yeah, basically Exhibit A, like that's how you do it. But given how every game besides Recycle Rush has been designed, a lot of game designs reward defense, and that's just kind of at a pure game design level. And games where defense was played really well will result in victories. I think we've seen that in the past with like 973 in 2011 in Worlds, or like out in Mar, 747 in 2019 got picked by 225 and just absolutely like wrecked everyone. And so clean defense, as long as First keeps designing these games that rewards it, I don't think we're going to see that go away. To me, when I read through that thread, like the real crux of the whole issue there is that teams don't want to be told what to do. They want to be part of the conversation.
Yep.
And the strategy discussions. And I think kind of really what that thread was about was like drive coaches and teams need to improve the way that they host these discussions.
There's just a way to go about it, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Having been a drive coach before, as an adult, I was often interacting with full student drive teams, and I always made it a point to like enter the discussion with, so what do you guys want to do? Like initially, just always lead off with that, because I think that kind of sets the tone and lets them take the lead in the first shot on, how do you, what does your team want to do this match? And I think that's the smart way to go about it. Doesn't mean that you don't end up working your way back around to figuring out how to win the match and defense comes back into it, but I just think that's kind of the way that I would always approach it, at least.
Yeah, and similar experience when I was so I was a drive coach for 4130 in 19 and 20, and then was on the drive team from 2015 and 2018. So we had the similar approach as well. And again, one thing, when we were in a position where we were the alliance captain in the elimination rounds or something like that, and we say, we had picked a a specific team with the intention of them playing defense to lead our strategy, I would always make it a point as well too, to note that we don't want to make your team do something that you're not comfortable with. If you don't want to do that, fine, we understand. Let's try and find another strategy to get us back to the same capability that we would be at if you were to play defense, and kind of work it around that way. Maybe instead of us being the full-time score, maybe we do a little situational defense to kind of allow for that as well, and try to get around that way. But I totally agree with what you said, and as the continuation of the designs of the games allow for it, I personally think that it needs to stay, only because I think for the competitiveness of FRC, and to give FRC the, like, real world feel, maybe, I guess, is what I'll use, or the near comparison to sports. You have to have it. It's part of the game, right? And I know, like, it's been said multiple times, but for FRC to get to that, high school sport level of what some of us try to compare it to, it's got to have that counterpart to it, to be able to have that competitiveness. But Tyler, you
Yeah.
had something to add? Oh, Ryan, go ahead.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a competition, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's going to be a winner and a loser,
Right.
and regardless of, like, I'd say how matches have played out that I've been a part of, everyone on an alliance wants to win. Like, that's the common factor, right? That's always true. I don't think anyone wants to come in and lose a match. I've never experienced that, at least.
No.
So, so, like, I think it's just how you go about it, and how you set the tone with these conversations, and that's communication is really hard, and teams have spent months building these robots, and they want to come in and kind of try to show off what they've
Oh yeah,
built.
exactly.
And it's really hard, I think, for students, especially, to kind of be told, like, no, you need to go play defense for us to win this match, because it feels like you're
I
kind
want to
of
win the
saying, like,
match too.
Right.
yeah, they want to win the match, but at the same time, they want to kind of show off what they worked on. So I totally empathize with whoever started that thread, because I think we've if you've been in this long enough, there are always incidents, I think, that happen like this. It's more common, unfortunately, than any of us would like to see. And I think that's where drive coaches, and maybe some of the more prominent ones, really need to kind of try to set the tone during these strategy meetings.
Yeah, be the difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I've been in the OP's shoes before, so like I feel for the OP, but I also understand that, like, defense is a major component of this game, and it has been for so long. So I would see it very hard. It would be very hard for me to see it get phased out, unless if, like, the game design committee just full on with cold turkey is like, no defense is put into the rule book. So, like, with my team 166, like, we just started putting out decent robots within the past couple of years. So my team has always been in that situation where we are the defensive robot on each alliance. And for most of the time, we've accepted that. But at least for, like, the first 2-3 qual matches at each event that we go to, it's like, hey, like, we just spent thousands of hours building, designing, prototyping, programming this robot over the past 6 weeks. Like, we would love to be able to just at least try it out. Like, we've been trying to work on something. We just want to get it done. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. Like, we'll start conforming to what we need to be able to do to win matches. No problem with that. But
yeah, I totally agree. Because, like you said too, like, all these students are working towards something. They don't want to, especially, like, say, you go to your first competition, have some issues, and you completely redesign something, and go to your next competition, and you just spent all this time trying to, improve, say, like, a new shooter or something, and then you just play defense the whole time. You're like, well, then why do we do all that work, right? So
yeah, especially in districts, it's like you come up and maybe you had to play defense at your first qualifier because stuff didn't go right, but then you got some things working, but then you show up at your next one and everyone's like, well, they're just a defense bot. And you kind of get that label stuck on you through the whole season, and I can understand the frustration behind that, for sure.
Yeah, don't want to, or I do, but Joel is in chat is mentioning some great stuff too. But like, Ryan, you said it well. It relates to the communication of teams, and there has to be a proper way that teams go about that channel, instead of just having it in a demonizing. I don't know. That's definitely not a word, but you know what I'm getting at. In that type of demonizing. Man, I cannot talk tonight. But in that sense. But Tyler, you had something to add?
I got two things. I got an opinion, and then I have a question to ask both of you. So opinion, first off, is that I agree in general with the defensive conversation for quals, not for playoffs. When playoffs come, if you are part of an alliance, the alliance captain, in my opinion, should have say in what those robots do, or at least the biggest say in that. So I'm okay with, if you're relegated to a defensive bot in playoffs, don't join that alliance if you don't want to be you are welcome to decline joining an alliance for things. So, I mean, to me, playoffs is there to win at that aspect. Here's the proposal I'll give you, though, and I want to hear your opinion. What if the game somehow was created where qualification matches did not have defense and playoffs allowed it? That is kind of what they do like in Formula One, for example, where you have qualifying rounds and you go, and then when the actual race actually starts, the things that truly mean things, then the dynamic of the game totally changes. So what would you think of something like that?
It could really shake things up because we know that defense does play a factor into who wins some qual matches. So that could really shake up your rankings if you just completely outright ban defense throughout quals. And then as soon as it hits playoffs, I mean, that could really shake up your bracket. That would. So
I guess
that actually be kind of interesting. I'm not sure how good how good I feel about it right now.
Yeah, I have 2 points. In the sense that Tyler is talking about, your elite will always be the top rank at that point then, regardless. I mean, I know they pretty much are already, but there's no like small variable of them getting knocked because of, having like an amazing defense robot. Mess with the rankings and jack some of that up. The other point that I'll have is that, at least from my perspective, I want to know who the best defensive bot is at the competition when I'm scouting. And if there's no defense in quals, how am I going to know?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Do I just pick the next best offensive robot and just say, hey, if somebody breaks, we know we have the next best offensive robot, but have them play defense, and maybe that you need to rely on more pre-scouting at that point. I know somebody mentioned in chat that do we think that teams should ask other teams if they want to play defense in prelim scouting? Yeah, I 100% agree that when I was on 4130, we had asked that question because I think it's a really important, note to have. Because honestly, I don't want to put a team in a position that they're not comfortable with. So that's my sense on it, I guess. I personally do not like that idea, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'd kind of agree. Like, there are teams that want to show that they can play defense, and the qualification rounds are their opportunity to do that. On the teams I've helped here recently, 1720 and now 5010, like we always build our drivetrains to be prepared to push people around if we needed to. If everything went wrong at the end of the day, we could push people and get in the way. And we ended up having to do that this year as the 7th seed alliance captain at Tippecanoe. Everything was just going wrong with the robot. We were the captain, and we picked 2 really good shooters, and we just played defense, and we went all the way to the finals on it. So I mean,
oh yeah,
drivetrain at the end of the day, right? Like you got to have a strong one, and be prepared to make that call.
100%.
Totally agree. All right, before we go and jump into our final topic, we're going to bring Tyler back on to talk about Fun's continued sponsor, Kettering University, and to start our giveaway from the Thrifty bot.
Yeah, let's start the giveaway first, actually. So, Ryan, what are you giving away today? We'll put you on the spot right there.
I think we got a gift card.
Yeah.
$25 gift card lined up. Yep.
Perfect. And keyword, we're going to do 5010 in celebration of 5010 Tiger Dynasty. I love that name, by the way. That's such a great team name, right? So
it's good. It's different, You got a lot of teams that are like Robo something. Yeah, I can appreciate the uniqueness.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So, all right, so type in 5010. It's going to be a little bit till we draw for it. So just a heads up for that because we've got a big topic to go into. But 5010 is your opportunity to win. Thanks a lot to Ryan and the Thrifty bot. Don't forget, you need to be following in order to be eligible for a giveaway, and our subscribers do get some extra luck as well too, because we just rig it that way for our subs. But before we do get into our final topic for this evening, we're going to take a moment to thank our friends at Kettering University. Kettering University applications will be opening up back in August and September. So if you are a student or have a student that's looking at going to a great engineering school, it's got a lot more to offer as well too. Here's a little bit more about financial aid at Kettering University.
When I was considering where to go to college, one of the biggest things for me was figuring out how I was going to be able to pay for college. And it wasn't really until I came to Kettering to one of the Dog Days of Summer events that I figured out how I was going to be able to do that. And it was actually because of the senior chemical engineering student. She was getting ready to graduate, and she had told me about all of her phenomenal experiences, both on co-op and here on campus. But more importantly, she told me that she was going to graduate debt-free. And that was an eye-opener for me. That was the first time I'd ever heard that from a college student, and so that's when I knew that I was sold. So really from there, as soon as I came to Kettering, I knew that that was going to be my goal. I wanted to graduate debt-free. And I did that through a variety of ways. First, of course, the co-op experience was a tremendous help, but I even looked to ways to work here on campus. So I was a federal work study student. I worked in a variety of organizations, and that not only gave me the extra funds, but also different opportunities to meet people and understand our resources here at Kettering. Also looking at scholarships not only here at Kettering University, but even from my hometown and other sources, all of this cumulatively helped me to graduate debt-free.
All right, thank you to our friends from Kettering again. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our third topic of the night and our final one, which is going to be the continuation of one championship and the host city being Houston for the 2023 and 2024 seasons. I got some mixed feelings about this one. I've voiced my opinion in the thread on Chief Delphi about it. And I'll preface this with overall, I think for the competitiveness and the outlook of the entire program, one championship is the way to go. Although I really loved championship being 35 minutes away from my house when it was in Detroit. I do think that, and don't get me wrong, Detroit was great. I loved having it in Detroit. I thought the city of Detroit did a great job with it. It just had a different feel to it, and it's hard to explain, but it just did. I thought that just didn't seem as competitive. Not being able to see all of these California, Texas, Glenn from Hawaiian Kids, like I not getting to see all these teams every year, just like totally not like killed it for me, but it just did not, did not have the same feel. And I mean, it was still great, but so that'll be my first preface. I think for the overall, I think the continuing the one championship is the way to do it, and I'm not upset about that. What I'm upset about is where it's at. And nothing against the city of Houston. 4130 was able to go down this year and had great experiences. Got to go to the Space Center, and there's a lot of stuff to do down there. But it's not realistic for teams like Connor and I, and even Ryan in Indiana. Making the trek all the way to Houston. It's over 24. I mean, it might be a little bit less than a 24-hour drive from where I'm at, but it's a hike. And I guess that'll be my next take, is that I'm really disappointed it's not in a more centralized location. And at least for this year, I know for Connor and I both, in the regions that we were in, our district championships got done that Saturday and had to be in Houston by Wednesday. And that's a pretty quick turnaround. Not only even logistically trying to get things down there. I mean, that's almost 2 straight weeks of school that those kids are missing, which, was not great. And, some of the kids are, feeling it right now. So I think that definitely hurts. Obviously with the news that FIRST has asked all of the, providing district partners to move their district championships to week 6, is better, I guess. But, that's a topic for another time, trying to move district championships to week 6. And I definitely want to talk about that eventually. But it's definitely going to be rough, to say the least. But yeah, ultimately that's, my biggest upset with it is I'm really disappointed that it's not in a more centralized location, because I think that some of the teams from Michigan and New England and Indiana that normally would be able to go, even if it was in St. Louis, again, they're just not going to get the opportunity because of how expensive it's going to be. And for some teams, it's not realistic to hop on a flight after you qualify 3 days before. So,
Yeah.
Ryan, we'll go ahead and throw it to you.
Yeah, so I kind of broke my thoughts down into two sections. Like the, from a competition standpoint, I would totally agree that like I thought these were some of the best matches I've ever seen played. The divisions were all insane, phenomenal robot play. There were very few guaranteed win matches from what I saw. Plenty of upsets. And like you said, it was the opportunity to get everyone under one roof again, really for the first time since like 2016. I think was the last time we had one single championship in St. Louis, and so this is like new to all the students. Really cool opportunity for them to be able to interact with everyone, and it just felt like the right thing. Like I understand the opportunities that two champs presented. But back in 2018 and 19, when I attended those, it did feel a little more watered down in terms of like the competition aspect. And so I think they're moving back in the right direction from that standpoint. And I mean, you were spot on. Like Indiana had 3 days to go from.
We were all in the same boat.
Rose-Hulman down to Houston. So I mean, not ideal for anyone. And hopefully, when they expand the number of teams, hopefully with this coming year, that Indiana can get a few more teams in too, because that's really tough. Just the winning alliance going and potentially no points teams is really really hard. So that was my spiel on the competition standpoint. I think there's another issue that has to be addressed here by FIRST, in my opinion, with Houston being selected for 2 more years. Like the state of Texas has some really bad stances, I think, on transgender issues for students. Really puts teams in a bad place, a really tough place, I think. And now teams are going to have to make this decision on whether they'll attend Worlds and potentially put some of their students at risk. That's really hard. That's a really personal thing. I think every single team's going to have to work through. I do think there's going to be teams and individuals that just choose not to attend because of where it's located, because they don't feel safe.
Yeah, which is a shame.
And it is. And like at the end of the day, FIRST made this choice, right or wrong reasons. I don't have insight into any of the reasons why they decided to go back to Houston for 2 more years. I totally understand people not being comfortable to attend. I do think it presents an opportunity for those who are attending. I would love for this community to come together with ideas on, how we can present a unified message in 2023 at the championship event for those who do want to come, because I think there is an opportunity there. And I just think it's a tough time for some people, and they're working through a ton of emotions around this. So whatever we can do to help, I'm all about that.
100%. I know, like fortunately, so what I did post in that blog post thread on Chief Delphi when this came out, and fortunately my prayers were answered. So I know that New England's emailed lead mentors 1 and 2 last week that our district championship will in fact be a week 6 for the foreseeable future. So that really helps me out personally. So a little bit of backstory for those who don't know. My team qualified Friday night based off of, because New England had these pre-qualified slots that we did, and some teams declined and they trickled down to us, and we were ranked 36 prior to district champs. So we picked up one of those slots. So we had to scramble and get flights and hotels booked, and we had those booked Monday afternoon, and we were in the air less than 48 hours later. So and hats off, hats off to New England FIRST for providing being able to ship our pit down and crates readily available at district champs to be able to put everything in, because if that wasn't there,
Right.
My entire team is screwed. Like, we're not going. Like, it's as simple as that. I mean, we could have drove our trailer, but we calculated with the person who drives our trailer. We calculated his mileage and for how long it would have to go. I think it was going to be about $3,000 worth of gas back and forth, and that was just driving back and forth, not accounting for any additional driving that we're doing within Houston. So, like, there's no way we'd be able to do that. So that definitely helps. I'm okay with it going back to one championship. I'm not entirely too fond about the location. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved like going down to Houston because it was, for me, it's nice and warm, and in New England around that time of year, it's not. So it's a nice escape, especially where it was snowing when we left. But with the ongoing politics, it is not the best place to be right now for those in the LGBTQ plus community. But you know, I can't really comment too much between the one champ versus two champ thing of like the experience, because fun fact, I never got to go to a championship during the two champs era. The last time I went was when I was a senior in 2016.
Oh, okay.
So I'd never been to Houston or Detroit. So, but you know, it's
I thought Detroit did a good job. 19 was the last time obviously it happened, and I was impressed. Like, I'd never really even been to Detroit. I'd never been to Houston, and I thought, the city proper and everything around that was a great experience this past year too, for me at least. So I think they're doing a good job of hosting these events. But yeah, like competitively, I think this is the chance for First to kind of do a little undo button here and maybe realize that maybe they bit off a little more than they could chew with the two champs. That's a lot of organization, a lot of volunteers that you're splitting into, and it's probably a good time to bring everyone back under the same roof again, and just really truly crown our one champions, our set of champions. And I think it makes a lot more sense than what we were doing.
I mean, fortunately, like a lot of the volunteers at championship double up. They volunteer at both, but that's not always the case for like a majority of them. So, because you'll get some varying from region to region, which is awesome. But I'm like, each championship must be stupidly expensive, like at least a few $1 million per. So, I mean, with how much COVID has screwed over First over the past few years, because I know we're seeing an increase in registration fees from 5,000 to 6,000 in FRC.
That's I'm wondering for another time too.
Yeah, that's a topic for another time. But I'm wondering if they just can't even afford to do two at this point.
Right.
Oh, I don't think they can.
Yeah, so like that's one thing that could even think about. But yeah, it's just. And I know back when they announced that they were going to be doing two champs, the initiative was for students to be able to have a championship experience. Now, if that's still the message that First wants to do, this isn't in this isn't it. They're not taking forward steps. They're going backwards on this. If that's still their mission. If it's not, then that's fine. Then more power to them to go back to one championship, have a higher level of competition, and crown a true world championship. But if it is still the message, I don't know.
Yeah, I gotcha. Tyler, you had something to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think I need to come on screen for this. Sorry. So
okay.
I have a few points, and we can interrupt any time between these. Let's talk about general champs at first. Not having two champs, 100% based on two things, in my opinion: money and staff. Nothing to do with volunteers, in my opinion, at all. First has lost a lot of staff. Expecting them to do that much coming back out of COVID or even afterwards, where they're doing 2 weeks, because essentially all of First HQ staff is going to Houston, then going directly afterwards. There's a lot of risk factors with that, but most importantly, money as well too. Championships is very expensive. In my opinion, we will see two champs again. It will come. Enjoy it while it lasts for one champs. But who makes the decision for this, I think, is a really important question to ask, because it's not Frank Merritt. It's not program side. A lot of people are thinking, when they're addressing things that, people that are in programs, FRC, FTC, FLO, stuff like that, sure, they have some say in things, but there's a completely other side of FIRST in the operations side of things and the board that is making decisions like this as well. So, people, you got to not open your eyes, but see the general picture of what FIRST is, and that many of the people you are complaining to are not the correct people to make changes on this. They can help voice, but they're not there to make direct changes. Location first in general for Houston. One of the things I will say is that, let's say we move it to like Chicago or something like that. Like Chicago's about as middle as you can get, right? Chicago or St. Louis, something like that, right? Still, though, if you're going to drive from like Washington State, I just looked it up on here. That's still Seattle to Chicago is still 31 hours for a drive.
So regardless, somebody's driving a hike.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, other teams, I think for international, it's not as big a deal because Houston's a major airport, right? Chicago's a major airport and stuff. So as long as it's at a major airport, not as big a deal. But no matter where you are in the continental U.S., there's going to be long drives for everybody with one championship for things. Lastly, in regards to LGBTQ, specifically trans, first off, I think acknowledging that we're all white cis males on here is one thing to keep in mind and take everything with a grain of salt, right? But I want to read you something that I think is really important. This is the FIRST Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Statement from their website, verbatim. FIRST is committed to fostering, cultivating, and preserving a culture of equity, diversity, and inclusion. We embrace and encourage others in race, ethnicity, national origin, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, age, religion, income, language, learning difference, and any other characteristics that make our adult force and students unique. I'm sorry, BS if that's the case. Like, I don't know why, isn't there somebody that is a director of EDI at FIRST, right? Why are we not hearing from this individual and a more vocal state of what's going on for things? I just don't get how FIRST can continue to say this while they're having it in Houston. I get there's contractual obligations. I get that there's issues with that, but to not even come out and acknowledge it yet when they release championships, that really just doesn't make any sense to me on what their mission is for things. I mean, if you want to change your mission or your inclusion statement, I guess, go ahead and do that. I mean, I don't agree with that about changing it, but FIRST has to acknowledge something with this. It blows my mind that they can state this, and regardless of where you feel, I mean, I don't necessarily feel this is a political thing, but regardless of where you feel that you might call it politics or something, this is what FIRST is saying is their thing, right? So if they're going to say it's their thing, they need to back that up, and they need to take action of what they said it is. Otherwise, don't say it and don't go that direction if you're not gonna follow it. So that I'm gonna end my rant there for things, but I think location wise, no matter what you do, there's going to be a long drive for everybody. I think there's some greater issues at hand to look at for champs locations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good points, Tyler. And I think you're spot on. I mean, it's like deafening silence right now, right? Like FIRST comes out and says, "Hey, we're going to have this here for 2 more years," and it's like, okay, really? Like, so.
Well, I guess my thing is like, what is it going to take for them to give an answer? Like I am disappointed that there hasn't been one already. And like Tyler said, why didn't we hear something?
Because this is a disconnect between programs and operations and the board. This is what's being shown right here, is that disconnect on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Any last thoughts before we go ahead and draw for the giveaway and wrap up?
I said mine.
All right, let's end on a bet. Let's end on a more happy note with the giveaway, right? So
yeah, Tyler, go ahead and let's draw for it.
Now that I've silenced the crowd, perfect. So,
that was good.
For our friends at Thrifty Bot and Riot, we're giving away that $25 gift card. The winner of that, please make sure you shoot me a DM with your email so where I can get that out to you. Building with Logan, congratulations. You have taken it. Nick wants to win, right?
Win one.
You know, mods are selected that they can't win by default, right?
That's
So-
a shame.
Oh, really?
Hey, Tyler, take my mod capabilities
Yeah,
away,
so
please.
sign in with an alt
All right,
account.
where's my alt account? Yeah.
But congratulations, Billy and Logan, for winning this. Real quick from me, we will be starting our esports league soonish. I'm a little bit behind on that, I'll admit, but we will have that going for summer. So if you're interested in joining that, discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. And if you're watching live, I might be sticking around a little bit after to play some XRC. I'm not sure yet, but just a heads up for me on that end before we wrap up the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks again for tuning in to FRC Roundup. Special thanks to all those who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help fund with a Twitch subscription or donation. I saw Joel gifting subs, so thanks again for that as well. Your support really helps us continue to make great content. Don't forget you can watch FRC Roundup archived at youtube.com/firstupdatesnow and watch live Mondays after FRC recap during the competition season, or monthly now that we are in the off season. Thank you to Ryan Dognaux, our guest, for coming on, and on behalf of our producer Tyler Olds, my co-host Connor, and all fun correspondents, I'm Nick Jr., and thanks for watching. Good luck to any teams that may be competing in the off-season events before our next show, and see you next time, same day, same time, where we take a look at what is going on with First Robotics on FRC Roundup. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to Kettering University for their support of this video. Kettering University hosts 3 co-op employment fairs each year for incoming and current students. Participating in the co-op employment process at Kettering is a great way to begin turning robotics experience into a professional career to earn money towards graduating debt-free. If you are a senior, it's not too late to apply at kettering.edu/apply. Thanks to Stryker Careers for their support in this video. First alumni and mentors are making Stryker a top priority for their internships and careers. That's because Stryker knows that those in First are the leaders and innovators of tomorrow. If you want to help make the world a better place by creating life-saving medical devices and technology, get started at careers.stryker.com. Thanks for watching. If you want to join us for future fun streams, be sure to click the follow button and turn on the notification bell to know when we're live. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. View archives and unique content at youtube.com/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. And check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.